confidence that you get, the self-discipline that you get, the sense of accomplishment you get, the community, if you're in a band, that goes forever. Those are life skills that when you're in front of the boardroom and you have to give a speech.
That's right.
All
in
the
front
same
of people,
stuff.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
My philosophy is piano's where everyone should start.
Really?
Because it's literally laid out in front of you, black and white, all the notes, it's all there. Also, you press down, you get a sound. Second would be drums. You hit a drum, you get a sound.
Right.
Guitar is hard. You have to press and strum. 2 motions.
You don't have to tell me. And he goes, listen to me. And I said, what? He goes, you forget the guitar for one day, it forgets you for 2. Yeah. I'll never forget it because it does. You have to pick it up every day, even if it's 15 minutes. He said, just pick it up every day. He said, I'm not asking you to do an hour lesson every day. Just pick it up. Welcome to Bare Wires, where we have unfiltered conversation for curious people. My name is Brian Heyman. I'll be your host. We have Rob Spampinato tonight, a musician who's toured the country and has started a music school in Suffern, New York, leaving a long-term legacy for young people to learn to play music and to enjoy music. Rob Spampinato has been around the country playing, started at an early age, and now is leaving a legacy in Rockland County of musicians. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so happy that you could make it. I know we've been bouncing around trying to get this thing going here, but we finally got this set up here. I came probably a month ago and visited you. You got a nice setup there in Suffern.
Thank you.
And, when we do these things, I always like to go back to where they started, what were your inspirations? So where were you born? You were born in Rockland?
Yep, Good Samaritan Hospital, Suffern, New York.
Okay.
Yep.
And is that where you went to school where?
I went to East Ramapo School up until the middle of 8th grade. So Summit Park, Hillcrest, Pomona Middle School, and then Suffern High School onward.
Okay, so when did you start your interest in music?
So my dad's a professional drummer. So
really?
Yeah, so music has been around as long as I could remember. We would always hear the stories growing up. So he got me a guitar when I was 5.
Was he in a band also?
He played with Johnny Maestro on the Brooklyn Bridge, but not the original lineup, like the revival stuff.
Right,
so like the big variety shows.
So he's been on the stage before.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So he was a drummer. And did you pick up drums?
Eventually I got to drums. But guitar is what I started with because even at 5, I figured guitar was cool, be front of the stage, rock star, stuff like that.
Right. Even at 5 years old, huh?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's early. Did you like it right away? You picked it up and it was pretty natural to you?
It was not. It's still to this day, it's not natural to me. I started when I was 5. I went to take some lessons and the teacher told me, I asked to play We Didn't Start the Fire by Billy Joel.
Right, yeah.
Which is a piano song. I know that now. But he laughed at me at 5 years old, 5 and a half probably at the time, and said, you can't play that on guitar. And then I was stifled and I just didn't like it and it hurt my fingers on top of that. So when I got home and told my dad I didn't want to do it any longer, he actually threw the guitar out the front door like a Frisbee, landed in a bush.
That should have made an impression on you, huh?
Every time I tell this story, he's like, how do you remember that? I'm like, how could I not remember that?
It was traumatic.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So you stopped playing?
I did.
How long did you stop playing for?
So throughout elementary school, I tried different instruments. I tried clarinet, and then my orthodontist said it was bad for my braces.
Okay.
I tried piano for a little while. I tried drums and percussion. None of it stuck, and I just thought music wasn't my thing. And then when I was about 13, my best friend started playing guitar. He was 2 years older than me. And he said, hey, we're going to play guitar. We're one person because that's how you are when you're a teenager,
right.
And I looked up to him. And I said, I think I have one of those. I dug through my closet. I pulled out this guitar.
You didn't have to go out in the yard and get the guitar?
No, it was in my closet. Maybe some branches still in it. I'm not sure. But I pulled it out. It was a smaller guitar, but it just never looked back from there.
Wow. So did you take lessons at that time? Did you go back to taking lessons?
I did. So my dad, who is still a huge inspiration and a supportive force in my entire musical life, both my parents really, but my dad taking me to guitar lessons every week with my guitar teacher, who I'm still very close with now, 30 years later.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. So you started taking lessons again. And what turned you back into saying, I want to do this? I mean, I understand that you got soured from it and stuff like that, but what was the real inspiration that said, okay, I'm going to stick with it this time?
All my contemporaries hate when I say this, but it was 2 things. It was I wanted to be Metallica, and I wanted girls to like me. I was
Right.
very shy and awkward, and that was the reason. And I just
What
stuck
grade
with
was this?
8th grade.
Okay, so you started playing 8th grade. Did you another guy playing a guitar? Did you form a band at that time?
We did. So we had a couple incarnations of our early bands with horrible names and horrible music.
Can you remember any of them?
It was like Lock Key or something like that, and Attack of the Chickens. It was just horrible things. And then when I was 16, we started our first actual band, which was called Black Roses.
So you're in high school now, and you put a couple musicians together, a drummer, I'm a bass player.
So we had myself on guitar, my friend James on guitar, this kid Brendan on bass, and Tom on drums. I still play with all of these people to this day, on and off.
Wow.
And they were the 3 best, most talented guys in Suffern High School, and I was one of the least talented. But I had the dad who was willing to buy all the gear and the place to practice.
Big plus.
Yes.
Big
Yes,
plus.
yes.
Where did you practice? At your house?
At my house, yep.
Okay.
Yep, we converted. We had a bi-level, and we just took the downstairs sort of living room, cleared out all the couches. And it
Oh,
became
he
our
was a
church.
true believer in
Absolutely,
music.
yeah.
You got lucky there, because
Yeah.
I can imagine him upstairs going, "Oh man, I can't listen to this anymore."
If I mean, the way it sounded back then,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sure
what I
he
mean.
was saying that.
That's what I mean, you know. But so you're in high school. You have a band. Did you play for the high school itself?
We did. Our first performance was when I was in 10th grade. We played Spirit Week for Suffern High School, so you had to play during lunchtime. And then shortly thereafter, we played any and every local show we could get our hands on.
Just
Backyards, they had back then they had these all age clubs in like northern New Jersey. We'd play there a lot as well.
So a lot of these were all free gigs.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then it got worse. Then it was pay to play. So this is like the inner secret. Like they'd be like, you can play this gig. You have to sell 20 tickets. Each ticket is $20. And if you sell more than 20, you might go on at a better time slot. So
Let me tell you something. You know, it always amazed me about musicians. And, you know, unless you cross over, and we'll talk about this a little more to a certain point, people are not willing to pay musicians. I'll give you an example. I had a musician come down from Maine who was very talented, played on American Idol, and I talked to a couple bars because I wanted him to come down and play. He was good. He did the podcast, and he was going to be here for the weekend. I said, let's see if I can get you a gig while you're down here, you know what I mean? And it's amazing it's amazing that people will not pay for music.
Yeah.
You know, so I went to a friend of mine. I said, you know, this guy's, you know, talented guy. I think he'll bring in a nice crowd, you know. What are you willing to pay? He goes, well, I don't pay more than $200 a guy in the band. So if there's 3 guys in the band, I'm going to pay $600. So I couldn't tell this guy that, you know what I mean? Because I had already paid him $1,000 to play on my lawn in Maine. I brought all the camps together. People were on the lake watching him and stuff. So I'm like, oh my God, he's coming all the way down here. So I just told the guy, I said, don't tell him anything. I said, I'll give you another $400. Just pay him $1,000. And that's what he got. And he was happy with it and stuff like that. But the point of the story is, I can't believe that people are so unwilling to pay musicians to play.
Yeah.
It never really made a lot of sense to me, but I think musicians want to play so bad that they're at a disadvantage because they do it for nothing if you let them.
absolutely. And then to take that a step further is a lot of musicians will do it for nothing, and it makes the people less inclined that would have paid to pay. So it just lowers the bar for everyone.
I have a friend, Russ the Flippist. I don't know if you ever heard of Russ, but he's a huge blues player, jazz player.
Russ played with my dad.
You're kidding me.
True story.
That you got to be kidding. You know, he's in Florida now, right? So Russ told me from Florida, you know, he moved down to Florida. We were very, very good friends. He was one of my teachers, by the way, in guitar.
That's great. My mind is blown right now. Yeah.
He was one of my teachers. And, you know, I'd go to his house and stuff like that. I was very, very close to Russ. And, you know, he went down to Florida and he changed his whole persona. I mean, he's going crazy. Just outside of, just down from Jacksonville, what's that town? I forget, St. Augustine. Mm-hmm. He's like a major thing. He's like all over the place. He changed his look and everything. He looks 20 years younger, and he's sending me these, you know, Instagram stuff. I can't believe. But he said to me once, he goes, listen, and this is when he got down here, because he used to play for next to nothing. I said, Russ, you're one of the most talented. Well, if you know him, you know how talented he is.
Yeah.
You're one of the most talented guys I know. I said, why would you ever play any place? He goes, I just love to play, you know. So But down there, he took a different attitude. He said, I'm getting this, or I'm not playing.
Good for him.
And let me tell you something, it changed his whole life. He's well known down there. He's playing at every place down there. It's crazy that you know him, and I'm going to let him know. Shout out to Russ the Flippers.
Like literally, you say, how did I want to play guitar at 5? I would watch my dad's band practices in our basement in Spring Valley. And I'm pretty positive he was the guitar player back then.
Oh,
so like
wow.
that, see, there's new information. That could have been the spark. That's crazy.
I'm telling you, he's, like I said, he's a great, he teaches, he actually was teaching online a bunch of people, but he's doing very well in Florida. And he took the attitude, said, listen, I'm not going to play if I'm not going to get paid, X number of dollars. And not enough musicians do that, so you end up playing for cheap, So you're playing in these places mostly for nothing. You're going through and just, honing your craft. When does it change? When do you start really getting into the business of music, where you are playing with a bigger band and moving outside of this area?
So that high school band transitioned into the college band. We were called In Question, and then we started to play in the city, and we started to travel a little bit further, get on these tours. The money wasn't there, but the business sense started to develop. I started to look at it as a business. If I wanted to convince my parents I wanted music to be my life, I had to show them that I can think of it with a business mindset and not just play my guitar and be a rock star. So probably in my late 20s, I went to college for music at Ramapo College. In my early 20s, and then by the time I was getting to my mid-20s, it started to become a little bit more lucrative. Played on some tours with some bands. None of them were famous, but I was a hired gun, which means I wasn't part of the band. I wasn't getting a piece of the music or anything like that, but I had a set amount of money that I would get paid to go out and play with them.
So you were guitar for hire?
Correct.
So they would say, hey, listen, we're down a guitar. Call Rob. Let's see if he can. Let's see if he can meet us here. That's wild. Yeah. That's pretty wild. So you would show up, and you would learn the music before. How would you do that?
It depended on the circumstance. So like I played with this band Diecast, which was like a very metal band, and I might look metal, but I'm not a metal player. So that was something where I had to get their CDs, aging myself, and learn all the material by ear because nothing was transcribed. But I've done other gigs where I've been called out to do a wedding or something like that, and they'll literally like beam to your iPad the set list with all the charts, and you're just sight reading something on the spot.
Wow. So as technology advanced, it was a little easier for you to just pull it out. Because I always wondered, because it happens to bands all the time. A guy goes down and they call, their buddy and say, listen, you got to help us out. And then, the guy's got to go into, fast forward to try to learn the music, make sure he doesn't screw up the songs during the thing. So I always wondered how they did that. So you're going around the country and you're playing. What did you learn, like say on your first tour? What was the lessons that you learned when you were out there? Said, "Oh, this is a little different than I thought it was going to be."
Two things: the 45 minutes to an hour and a half on stage is amazing, and the rest of the time is really boring.
Right.
And it's really hard to make money.
Right.
It was really hard to make money. It was a lot of fun, but it wasn't as lucrative as I'd hoped.
Would they pay for your travel and stuff like that?
I would make sure, especially as I became more renowned, which is a horrible thing to say, but that I became endorsed by PRS Guitars in 2007. And
is that a type of guitar?
So the third largest guitar manufacturer in the country, Gibson, Fender, and then PRS, based out of Maryland. This guy, Paul Reed Smith, makes guitars for Santana, John Mayer, Mark Tremonti from Creed. But that leveled up what I could demand to go somewhere or do something.
Okay. Did you do studio work too?
A little bit, but a lot of that was not paid in the same way because there's another secret behind the curtain is a lot of times if you see a band live, the people on stage with that artist might not necessarily be the same people you're hearing on the record.
Right.
It's I'm very close with this guy, Rod Castro. He tours with BB Rexa. He plays on records with Beyonce. Never swapping over.
Wow.
So the studio stuff I did was never as lucrative because that just wasn't the world I existed in.
So you didn't like it, or you just?
I enjoyed it, but I'm a live player. I'm very showy. I have a big personality. I'm a tall guy, tattoos, blah blah blah. So that
so that's part
attractive
of your
to people.
Aura.
Yeah.
Okay, and it doesn't translate in the studio. They just
looking for you can't see that. Yeah.
They're just looking for the sound. Okay, does this guy play well enough to make an improvement on this or not? So But you enjoy playing live. You enjoy the shows.
I like the interaction. I like to make people have a good time. And music is a
I'm sure there was some fringe benefits to that too.
A couple.
But the travel could get a little hectic, I guess. Just knowing travel, I do a lot of traveling. And it gets to be a real pain in the ass sometimes. I can't imagine going from one place to the other in less than 24 hours. I go to a lot of shows, so I remember once I was in Portland, and the bus drives up like 2 hours before the show. These guys get out. You wouldn't even recognize that these guys, they look like they went through hell.
Yeah.
So they take a nap in a hotel, and they go out. Now they're playing. They show up late to the concert on top of it. And, they play for their 4 hours, and you see them just come right out, go right back in that bus, and on the road they go. They probably have another gig 6 hours, 7 hours away. Who knows, So it's got to be a tough life, as far as it's not as glamorous as people would think it is, I would think.
No, when I became hyper aware of that was in 2013, 2012. I was with my band, and we had flown across the country to LA, flew to LAX, flew our guitars, drove to SIR to rent a drum kit, rented a van, and had to drive straight to Vegas. And all of this was happening overnight, and then in the morning, and there was no sleeping, and then by the time we had to play, I was like, I don't know how fun this is.
Right.
At the time, I was on the cusp of becoming a father.
How old were you when this was happening?
26, 7.
Oh, so you were 26.
Yeah.
So you're starting to look at some other things. Were you married at the time?
I was to someone else, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were married, and did you have children too?
I didn't. So I was on the cusp of having a son, and then when my son came, I realized I should prioritize that. 2011. This was, my math was off. 2011.
Okay.
So I should prioritize that, and at that point, I stopped any sort of large scale touring. Done a few things since, but not like that.
So you wouldn't be away for that
I wanted
long.
to be home. I wanted to be home, and I realized I could teach music at home. I could still do small weekend runs. I had a studio for a little while, and those things sort of allowed me to. Because that's the thing with music, that you can't just do one thing.
Yeah. So now you find that the touring is not conducive to family life. I would say that, right? And you start to think about, well, I still got to make a living, but I still want to be in music.
Right.
Okay. So is that the genesis of Rob's music school?
Actually, no. When I had switched from the touring life, I still wanted to play music desperately. And I put together pretty quickly that if I had an acoustic duo, I could still go out there and play 3, 4, or 5 times a week, but I'm home every night. And it's more lucrative because it's just 2 of us, not a big giant band. I did that for almost 10 years, and then someone had approached me and asked me to teach some lessons at Alto Music.
I remember Alto Music. I think I might have even taken a lesson there. But
so this was Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings. And I was like,
was that in Airmont?
The Airmont one, yes.
Okay,
yep.
yeah, okay.
Yep. And I was like, I'm not gigging Saturday mornings. I don't do church gigs, so I'm not doing Sunday mornings. This is just another way to make some money. And I did that for 2 months, and then the guy who was running it called me the day after Valentine's Day, and I thought I was getting in trouble because I lost a student. And he said, I don't want to do this anymore. You want to buy the business?
Wow.
And I was like, well, what am I really buying?
That's right.
And
That's
the roster of students, sort of.
What year was that? Because I was in that store probably right before that.
2017.
Yeah, I was probably in that store looking at guitars.
Yeah.
As you can see, they're all over the place.
Yes,
I bought a bunch of them. I don't know how to play any of them.
I can help with that.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, we're going to talk about that after this podcast because I would like to get back into it. But so you there really isn't anything to buy there, unless you want to pay that exorbitant rent in
exactly.
at Altos.
Exactly. So I borrowed some money from my parents. I bought his roster of students. None of these kids had contracts. They could have quit the next day. And I said to myself, I'm going to make this work.
So what did you pay for that roster? Because that's the only value that you're buying from the school, right?
I paid $50,000 for that roster of students.
Wow.
Which in hindsight was really stupid. But it was an opportunity, and I saw the opportunity. In my mind, in anything you do, there's the tax you have to pay. And if I wanted to have a music school, this is the tax I had to pay. I was basically buying a giant lump of students. It was over 100 students.
Hopefully you would keep
a good
percentage of them.
Exactly. And to start from zero, it would have cost me more than 50 grand to get to 100 students.
Right.
So that
Absolutely.
was the gamble I took. And I kept all of them. I still have some of them to this day.
Wow. So when you were on the road and you had to, look at the business end of it, did that help you do this part of it of business?
Absolutely, 100%.
So that was kind of like, yeah. So that was kind of like the training ground.
Yeah.
But if you were to say, okay, starting a business or being on the road, which was harder?
Equally hard in different ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, because I work with a lot of young guys starting businesses, and we go through the ups and downs of starting a business, the fear, all the other things. There's a lot of good things about starting a business, getting a name, getting the energy, and then you always have to, the fear about cash flow and things like that.
I like building things, so I was excited about starting it. My dad was a big influence musically, business-wise as well. He was an entrepreneur. He had restaurants before I was born. We had a restaurant together from
so he has that gene too.
Exactly. So it was in me that I know failure can happen, but if it happens, just keep going.
Okay.
You don't fail until you stop, and I won't stop.
Cool. So the $50,000, where did you get that money?
My parents.
Okay.
Parents moved around some things, let me borrow it, and I put together a payment plan. So I was paying them back weekly out of every month's tuition from a student. A portion of it would go back to them. So I was inside of Alto for 1 year.
Okay, so you actually took over that space.
Just the lesson rooms in the back, not the whole store. So there's 4 lesson rooms in the back. And I was doing that for a year. And on my 1 year anniversary week, which would have been April 1st, in 2018, I went to go approach the owner of Alto. And I was like, hey, I have all these ideas for expansion. And he was like, come talk to me. I was like, oh, cool. And he let me know he was going to be closing that location.
Wow.
Which was devastating to me because I was led to believe by the person whom I purchased it for that everything was very sound within that store. And that was
welcome to the real world.
Exactly. So I drove back home from Middletown pretty upset. And by the time I hit Suffern, I'd pulled myself together and I saw a store for rent on the corner of Lafayette Avenue, diagonally from the theater. And I said, I know someone who's a real estate agent. Let me call her and see what we can do.
Yeah, because it's a great location. Like I said before, I was there, and I didn't know where you were, and I found you. I said, wow, this is a nice little corner piece he has here, and it is close to the theater, which everybody knows where that is, and you can use it as a landmark. Mm-hmm. So, how many students do you have now?
So we hover on average between about 120 and 150.
Okay.
Thank goodness it never drops below the lower number.
Right.
Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to go above the big number. But based on our space, it's the perfect number.
Okay, so is it just guitar, or do you teach other things?
Guitar, bass, drums, piano, voice, ukulele, banjo, mandolin, audio production, and songwriting.
Wow, so you have quite a few people that work there.
There's 9 people beyond myself.
Uh-huh. And, they're teaching all these different instruments and stuff like that. Is there a system that you have that everybody follows?
There isn't. That's what I think makes it very beautiful.
Okay.
I don't want to be like a lot of the other corporate schools where they have sort of a mandated...
Yeah, I took lessons there too, believe it or not.
I think everyone learns differently, so they should be able to be taught differently. And I find teachers that share that ideology. I have certain milestones I want a student to reach. I tell that to the teacher, but however they get them there, that's totally up to them.
So you have certain criteria that you think these students should be achieving at certain periods?
I think within 3 months, a piano student should be able to read music. I think within 3 months, a guitar student should be able to have their basic chords.
That's pretty aggressive.
We make it happen.
Okay, and on guitar, read music also, are you saying?
Tablature in the first 3 months, reading music. If that's what they want, we will definitely do it, but it's sort of choose your own adventure.
Is there any instrument that you would say is easier than another instrument to learn? I'm sure there's people out there who want to go, okay, I want to play music, but what's the easiest one I can get on?
So my philosophy is piano's where everyone should start.
Really?
Because it's literally laid out in front of you, black and white, all the notes, it's all there. You can see the sharps and the flats, and you can see the whole notes. Also, you press down, you get a sound. Now, there's a hammer banging a string, so it's 2 motions, but realistically, you press down the key, you get a sound. Second would be drums. You hit a drum, you get a sound.
Right.
Guitar is hard. You have to press and strum. 2 motions.
You don't have to tell me.
So that trips people up. And then when, violin, I think, is one of the hardest.
Violin?
I can't do violin at all.
Do you teach violin there?
We have a teacher for it. He's been with me since the beginning, Taka. He's a saint. I can't do it.
Wow. And so how do you get most of your students? What do you do for marketing?
It's word of mouth. I've tried anything and everything. I've done Facebook ads. I've done Google ads. I've done mailers in your mailbox. I've done the placemat ads at the diner. I did a billboard for 6 months with my silly face on this giant billboard. Word of mouth. Music lessons aren't like a pair of shoes or a pair of pants where everyone needs them a couple times a year. You want it, you got to know the place to go to it. And my entire goal is just to put my name and face out there enough that when they think of it, they think of
I
us.
see you have an extremely big social media presence, and I've looked at a lot of it, and I think that's one of your recipes is to get in front of everybody. If they're thinking about playing music, your name is in front of them somewhere along the line.
I try and be really tech forward with everything we do. So all the rooms are set up with computers, and they can write out the music if they need, and everyone has access to all these modules and things that I've put together if they want to use them. Social media has been an incredible gift because it takes my rock star persona and shoves it out there, but now it's Rob the teacher too. So it's like I get to be this larger than life guy, but it's just like a cartoon character almost.
So from touring and being on the road and that type of life, you've been able to come back, have a stable life. Do you have one child?
So I have a son from previous. I just got married in September.
Oh, really? Congratulations!
Yes, I love her very much, and she has a daughter and a son, so 3 kids.
Great. So this gives you the stability you were looking for.
Absolutely.
But business is not easy. There's always turns. Is it tough to keep teachers?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So because another part of my philosophy is I want all of the teachers to be practitioners. I want them to be people who are living the life. So they're still in a band, they're still recording music, they're still creating music, they're still out there doing that, which means come summer, half the teachers go on tour. And I have to figure that out.
Right.
And I have one guy who's been with me since 2018 who is next month moving to Brooklyn because he's become an incredible sought after producer. He has over 1 million streams on Spotify. Right. He can't work for me if he lives in Brooklyn. That's 2 bridges away. Right. So like the students bond with the teachers, and the process of letting them know that, okay, we're rooting for not the name on the back, but the logo on the front of the jersey. That's sort of the mentality that's a challenge.
I could see, they do, I got close to my teacher and stuff like that. And, I could see students say, what do you mean he's leaving? And that can kind of mess with their heads a little bit. Like, do I really still want to do this with somebody else? Because, when you learn music, you really expose yourself, you're really exposing yourself in so many ways where, listen, man, I'm not doing this. And the guy who's teaching knows the thing. So he's looking at you and you're always wondering like, how dumb do I look doing this, while I'm doing it, so to make a student feel comfortable is extremely important, and just for their progression, to have somebody there that they can know they can play, make mistakes in front of, and do all types of these things. So I know it's tough to keep teachers in that business, staying long term with you. So that's another business challenge that you have.
Absolutely, and I have a handful of them that have been there for a long time. We have great teacher retention. If a teacher's a bad fit, I don't hold on to them because it's just. We have a mission statement when you first walk in and it says, we're not a solo project, we're a band of musicians, because it's Rob's School of Music, but I'm just the front guy of the band. These guys are part of the same group with me. We need to function together. So the people that have been with me the longest are those who understand that. Another way that I try and cope with teachers coming and going is I make myself extraordinarily present all the time. If I'm not teaching, I am there. I'm popping into the rooms all the time. And just talking to people, greet everyone by name, greet the parent by name. There's a lot of stuff to remember, but it's important to me. I want it to feel like a family.
So you've played, you've been on tour. Have you written a lot of music?
I have. So with that band in question, we put out a lot of music. In the mid-2000s, that is horrific. I have just
but you have written music.
I have written music, and I've written music for other people, and that was a big thing for a while. I had a song go on to Z100 and Sirius XM during the pandemic that was a dance song. There was no guitar in it at all.
Wow.
And that was like my most famous thing that was ever part of I just started writing music again with those original band members. We just did some gigs in California earlier this year.
Do you still go out and play in public?
I do.
Oh, you do?
All the time.
Do you hook up with a band, or you have a group that you play with?
I have a band now called Just Us, which is myself and the singer Brandy, and who I work with in my duo as well. We've been playing together for years.
Just two people?
So Just Us, Rob and Brandy is the duo.
Okay.
Just Us Band is that guy Tom on drums and this guy Lou on bass.
You play local?
We do. We were up in the Catskills last weekend at casinos. We play all around.
Okay, great, man. That's so you still have your hand in the entertainment end of it too.
Yeah, I think that's important. Keep the knife sharp.
In the school, do you put the kids together? Do they get that and then try to form a band?
That's my favorite part. So I don't do a lot of private teaching any longer. I run the bands.
Okay.
I'm a band guy.
So you have a space for, you, you're going to be in a band and we're going to set it up and this is what you're going to play type thing?
Yep. So we teach them how to do all the things that no one taught me how to do in the beginning. Like, you should get paid for this, things like that. Like, I have 13
good first lesson for sure.
So, like, we'll put on a show with, a group of 13-year-olds and a group of 17-year-olds, and they get paid at the end of the night. So they're professional musicians at that age. And we teach them how to rehearse. And I always say, rule number one in a band, don't play when someone's talking, because it's so obnoxious. So if I teach them anything, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. What you're teaching them is the value of themselves. You understand which is a tough thing to do. They've put time and effort into learning something, and nobody walks on the stage and doesn't know what they're going to do.
Right.
They put the time and effort. They have to have some self-value, and so that value has to be translated in some monetary situation. So that's a big lesson for musicians, because for some reason they can't get it. I don't know what it is.
It's the system. The system has taught them that this is not a valuable commodity.
Right.
It is.
It is a value commodity.
We have them playing at the every Sunday home Rockland Boulders game this year.
Sean up there. Have you met Sean, the owner?
Sean, and then I'm dealing with Sarah, I think is her name.
Yeah, she might be the PR person now.
But every Sunday home game, there's 8 of them. We're Rob School of Music Sundays. We perform before the game, and then one of those kids is going to sing the national anthem.
Where do you play up there? I used to own a box up there, that's why.
When you first come in the entrance, there's a stage over here.
Yeah, okay.
And the student stands right at home plate and sings the anthem.
Very cool, very cool. So that's going to start pretty soon, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, May 16th is the first one. That's a Saturday, actually. The rest are Sundays.
Excellent. So now you have this stable way of making a living, even though it's like any other business, it's difficult. You're managing it. You learned those things when you're on the road. You decide to write a book.
Yeah.
So how does that come about?
So my book was my little private project.
Okay.
When the pandemic occurred, we couldn't have lessons in person any longer, obviously. And I pivoted 2 weeks before the world shut down. I put everyone virtual at the same time slots. If your lesson was Wednesdays at 4, you still came in Wednesdays at 4. You just went online. Tried to keep the community alive.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that must have been a challenge.
It was a huge challenge, but when a lot of places were switching to virtual and just consolidating a day for convenience, I said, no, let's keep your life as normal as we can, so your lesson stays the same.
Same time,
just same teacher, just remote. On the computer, which we found tremendous growth in the students, because you would come to the lesson, you drive a half hour, you play your guitar for a half hour, you go home for a half hour. These kids sit on their bed, click on, start playing, click on, click off, keep playing.
Do you still do that now?
We do some virtual now, yeah.
You do some virtual, because that's how Russ used to do it too. He used to do it, all over the country.
That's what we're doing currently. So throughout that period of time, I was still going into the school every day by myself, because I had to keep that normalcy. And in that time, I was like, I think I'll write a book.
Were you doing it when you were doing virtual? I'm just curious here, because were you doing it with the teachers that were only in the school? Were you actually getting teachers that you weren't normally working with?
I grew. We grew tremendously during when everything was getting smaller.
That seems like a great opportunity to me.
It was. So I started my social media channel, my YouTube channel during the pandemic, and once that rose, that's when we grew in that direction. But I was on my way to California for a trade show in January of 2020, and I had this journal of things I wanted to accomplish. And one of them was write a book.
Yeah, well, it was published in 2020, right?
22.
22. Okay.
So, 3 months after I wrote, I'm going to do this, I actually executed it and did it.
The name of the book is The Book Shreds.
This Book Shreds.
Yeah, This Book Shreds. And it is a book about how you teach.
Yeah, so I always explain it. It's like 20% biography, 30% how to play music,
Okay.
50% how to learn how to play music. So it's mostly self-help, really.
Okay.
And music is just the vessel.
All right, so how to learn, which is a very important element of learning music, is there's different ways to learn.
Yep.
What would you say is the best way to learn music? Is it to learn a song to motivate you? Is it to learn the basics first and run through the different things? It means a lot when how they learn. Sometimes it's motivation. I want to do this song. I want to play this song, and in that process, you can learn a lot of how to play.
Sure.
Or like I did, we're going to start from scratch. These are the things I need you to learn this week, and I need you to know them by next week. And if they were basic, the chords, this, that, and we didn't even talk about playing anything for the first probably 2 months.
I bet you hated that.
I did. I couldn't stand it. It was brutal. And I'll just tell a story. I might have told you when we met last time, but he was pretty tough, this guy. So I would have a lesson every week. And he would ask me as soon as I get there, did you play last? And I played every day, blah, blah, blah. And one week I left and I went to St. John's for a week and I came back. I said, listen, man, I said, I didn't play last week. I didn't want to try to fool him because he would have picked up on it right away.
Yeah.
I just said, I didn't play last week and I was going to take the beating. And he goes, why didn't you play? I said, well, I went to St. John's. I didn't want to lug the guitar onto the plane and, put it in the baggage and blah, blah, blah. I thought it was a pretty good excuse, actually. But I did go to St. John's, and he goes, listen to me. And I said, what? He goes, you forget the guitar for one day, it forgets you for two. Yeah. I'll never forget it, because it does. You have to pick it up every day, even if it's 15 minutes. He said, just pick it up every day. He said, I'm not asking you to do an hour lesson every day. Just pick it up. And I said, okay, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yep.
So what's the method that you use?
I try and get to the why. For a small chapter of my life, I had a personal training business. And a big part of weight loss is, what is the motivation? I look at music the same way. Why did you want to play guitar?
Because I love guitar. I love music. I mean, I've been listening to music since I was forced into listening to music at a very young age from my older brother.
What are your 3 favorite songs you'd love to play?
Right now, it would be songs either from Dylan Gossage, which is a relatively new guy. There's if you saw my playlist, it just goes on forever. I could turn it on at a party and people go, where'd you get all this music? And it's a wide variety of music. But he's relatively new. I saw him in a small venue in New York City. Now he plays in stadiums. But, it's really the guitar and the song, the lyrics and stuff like that attract me now. I mean, I've been through a lot of phases, but that's really the type of stuff I look for now.
So that would be the conversation I would have with any new student, regardless of the instrument. What is your reasoning? Give me 3 to 5 songs you want to play. We pick 1 or 2 of those songs, and I teach it to you.
Really?
As you're learning that song, you're learning skills that are transferable to every other song.
I think it's a great way to do it.
Your time on the chords. The chords are in the songs. Learn songs.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the method you use for all your students on all the instruments.
Not violin. You got to play by the rules, but everything else, yeah.
Violin, you got to play by the rules. That's why I never play violin. I'm not a rules guy.
Me neither.
So I'll just toss that one out. Never look at the violin.
But it's playing music. It's fun. We're playing, so it should be fun. It's not that serious. If a student doesn't practice for a week, I wouldn't shame them.
Well, this guy was tough.
No, there's no shame. I never saved anyone.
I mean, when somebody says to you, you forget the guitar for one day, it forgets you for 2. That's pretty tough.
Yeah. I don't believe in being that strict, because you have life. You have responsibilities. You're allowed to go on vacation. You're allowed to spend time with your family. When a student starts with us, we ask, realistically, how much time per week do you think you're going to practice? It could be an hour per week. It could be an hour a day. We're going to give you the information in a way that will not overwork you or underwork you, but fit exactly in the parameter that you've set in the beginning as sort of a contract to yourself.
So when you talk to people who are thinking about playing, especially younger people,
yep.
What do you say to them and say, listen, if you do this, not only will you learn an instrument, but what other things will you learn while you play an instrument?
I say to everyone within that first month, it's so much more than just the instrument. I would love that every person I turn on to music would play music forever. They won't. It's not how it works. Life gets in the way. But the confidence that you get, the self-discipline that you get, the sense of accomplishment you get, the community, if you're in a band, that goes forever. Those are life skills that when you're in front of the boardroom and you have to give a speech.
That's right.
All
in
the
front
same
of people,
stuff.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm shy. I'm so shy in real life. Music made me this.
Okay, so the idea is it's not just learning the music. There's a bunch of things that go with
Absolutely.
it. You know, in schools, I remember when I went to school. You know, you were mentioned the violin. You had to pick an instrument. I think it was something similar to the viola. Maybe I was playing, but they always made you play. I don't know if that goes on anymore in schools. I don't know if you have to pick an instrument and at least be introduced to music.
In 3rd or 4th grade, everyone plays the recorder.
Oh, the record,
And
yes.
then the next year they have this music petting zoo where you get to see and touch all the instruments. But it's not piano, it's brass and woodwind.
Okay.
Percussion, largely.
Because I don't see a lot of musicians coming out of that. You know,
We've also taken a lot of music programs and squashed them.
Yeah, lately because of money or whatever. But it was a big thing when I was going to school. But I don't see it. I go through the schools now, and I don't see it as prevalent as I did when I was. I don't see a lot of people carrying instruments. I mean, there used to be like 4, 5, 6 people on the bus. They all had instruments.
Right, you see a little kid with a tuba, and you're like, what's going on here?
But I'm very intrigued that you came back and you're doing this, and it seems like you found your purpose. You know, I mean, in life, everybody, if they're lucky enough, at some point in their life will find a purpose, and that's really what sustains a lot of people and get enjoyment out of life once you can identify it and know it and do it. And I think, when I talked to you the first time and now, is that you've done all these different things, playing here and doing this and being in front of crowds. But this seems like to you get the most enjoyment out of this right
100%. I feel like more of a rock star as an educator than I ever felt as someone trying to be an actual rock star. I was at a gig over the weekend. A woman came up to me. She says, who are you? I said, oh, I don't know, Rob. Hi, nice to meet you. An older lady. And over the course of the conversation, she said, you look like you could be in a band, you could play anywhere, is this your full-time job? And I said, actually, my day job is I own a music school. And she lit up because she was a teacher herself.
Okay.
And we had this whole conversation on this very topic that teaching brings me so much more joy, not to minimize the joy from other things, but sitting across from someone of any age and showing them something and watch them nail it. And all of a sudden, they believe in themselves. They could not do that thing 15 minutes ago. They're doing it. They'll remember that moment that they were doing it. Or the first time they hear Nirvana or Pearl Jam or Jimi Hendrix. And it's like, that's a nexus point in their life. And now we have to cultivate that. We have to run with it as far as we can.
I saw on either Instagram or Facebook that you come up and you go through these chords for all these... there's no rhyme or reason to it because I watched a lot of them. You'll say one song and then the next one will be something totally different than that.
Yeah.
But you'll show a basic chord. And I think that gives a lot of hope to a lot of people that want to play guitar to say, wow, that didn't seem that hard. You know what I mean?
That makes me so happy you say that. So one of my projects for 2026 is every day I'm putting a song lesson, a 30 to 90 second lesson on the YouTube channel. And it's been driving up traffic tremendously. We're over 180,000 subscribers now on the channel.
Wow.
And it's through things like this because I just want someone to look and be like, it's a Nirvana song. Now it's a Taylor Swift song. Now, it's all over.
It's exactly what I'm saying. I'm looking
so
at
happy.
It was like boggling my mind. I said he's jumping these huge gaps from artist to artist.
Because music is music.
I know. And like I said, I think the way you're teaching is really the way I wish I learned in the beginning, which,
Thanks.
You picked the song, you went through, the chords, you got the song down because you're right. When you're doing that, you're learning the instrument, whether you realize it or not, but it's a lot more enjoyable. And I may take it up again, all right? Like I said, I may pick one of these guitars up in the near future and call you and say, listen, I'm going to give this another shot. It's definitely time consuming, but I think what you get out of it is so much more than just learning a guitar. There's so much more that comes with an instrument. And they even say as you get older, if you could just stay with that instrument, it helps you in a lot of, your mental faculty and your ability to work through problems. And it's like learning a language, almost the same thing. You have to get outside your comfort zone and say, okay, let me learn this. And it helps you. I think it helps stimulate the brain in its entirety. I'm really happy for you. and I hope that, the people in Rockland realize where you are and what you're doing. And before we go, why don't you tell us where we can find Rob's school, where we can get a hold of you, where we can find out more information about what you do?
So if you go to robschoolofmusic.com or just search Rob School of Music on any social media, that's the name of the YouTube channel, that's the name of the Instagram page, that's the name of the TikTok, which I don't use at all, but it's there. That's where you'll find all about everything that I'm doing. If you go to thisbookshreds.com, you get a free digital copy of the book.
The book here. You bought 2 of them here, and I already ordered it. So
everybody gets one.
So everybody gets one. But I'm definitely going to pick it up, and I really seriously want to talk to you about actually approaching the guitar and maybe put one of these guitars to use.
I'm going to give you a guitar lesson right now, real quick. Ready?
Okay.
Here's how you get good at guitar. Break it into 3s. I teach you something new. You have a bunch of stuff you love to play. You say you're going to practice for a half hour. 10 minutes of fun stuff, 10 minutes of the new skill, 10 minutes of fun stuff. Let's say you have 3 minutes to practice. 1, 1, 1. Let's say you have 90. Break it up in thirds. If you always sandwich the hard task with 2 fun tasks, you will progress, but you will have fun.
Okay, so that's an everyday thing, though. You're saying every day, right?
Anytime you're touching an instrument, you're getting better at it.
Okay.
Because you're familiarizing yourself. But in terms of progress, because in my school we have 2 rules. Rule number 1, everyone's having a good time. Rule number 2, forward motion. And that is, I think, the secret to it.
Well, you said something to me, when we first met. You said, the first month of learning sucks. And
Sure
you're
does.
100% right.
Second one, too.
It's the second, and then you said the second one, too. So I'm hoping after the second month it gets, you
It does.
get
In month
comfortable.
3, it clicks. In month 4, you won't remember your fingers hurting. In month 5, you won't even know what's going on. You're a guitar player.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like snowboarding. The first 3 lessons that you do, you bang yourself up pretty good, and then your muscle memory kicks in, and all of a sudden you do it for the rest of your life.
That's something that blows my mind. I can't do that, so you're cool.
No, hey, you could do it. You could do it. I teach it every Sunday during the season. So
I sense a barter coming.
Yeah, that's right. And I was 43 when I learned. So
That's me. That's me in like 2 weeks.
There
Let's
you go. There you go. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. So is it any place else we can find
One
you?
more thing. I have a course online. It's called I Can Play Guitar.
Okay.
And it is everything you would learn in your first year of guitar education for less than 1 month of lessons. It's an
Excellent.
online course, I Can Play Guitar.
Excellent. Rob, I really want to thank you for coming. I really enjoyed this podcast, and I'm serious about the guitar. And we'll talk again in the near future, right?
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.